Tonight on Yuba-Sutter.live, Government
Watch. At 6 o'clock tonight, we'll have the Marysville City Council meeting and the 6 o'clock Yuba City City Council meetings. There's important agenda items, so watch tonight. The 6:30 p.m. Marysville Unified School Trustees meeting will carry after the Marysville City Council meeting is finished. Yuba-Sutter.live's Government Watch, presented by PlumasLakeSelfStorage.com. Wednesday, local government meetings made shorter. For your information, we pull out informative sections and present them individually. For your information, posting Wednesdays here on Yuba-Sutter.live.
Yuba-Sutter.live, it's the truth that comes through.
Yuba-Sutter.live's local government live streams are presented by Plumas Lake Self-Storage in Plumas Lake, where lifelong local residents are helping other residents keep things safe, providing indoor storage units, outdoor RV and vehicle parking, moving supplies, and Penske truck rentals. Details at PlumasLakeSelfStorage.com.
Approach the throne. And Father, we approach it tonight. And we ask that your Holy Spirit would cover this entire room. God, would you fall on every single person here? Send this Holy Spirit to us, Father God, to give us counsel for tonight and peace to each of these officials and those present here. Give them peace and restored hearts. God, we thank you for our great city and for our great state. Would you guide these conversations tonight so that your will is accomplished? God, grant us your favor, even now as each of us have a mission to accomplish or an agenda or business to bring. Father, would you weave your story through it all and accomplish your mission? Father, there's business to be conducted, and so I ask that there would be words of truth tonight and patience for each of us here. King Jesus, we thank you, and it is in your mighty and holy and precious name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
On our agenda, there was no closed session, so therefore there will be no reports, agenda modifications, anything? Okay. All right, we're going to go to item number 1, which is presentations. And this is a special moment for us here at the City Council where we get an opportunity to hear from some of those folks who we vastly appreciate from Beale Air Force Base. The first person that's coming to the podium from Beale Air Force Base is Lieutenant Colonel Dominic Foglia, 9th Intelligence Squadron Commander. His staff is here, who I'll hope you will introduce to the group and to our live TV audience, and a presentation of the squadron's mission. So, sir, please.
Mayor, thank you so much. As you said, I'm Dom Foglia, Lieutenant Colonel, Commander of the 9th Intel Squadron. With me, I have my number 2, Major Alex Herrera, and my senior enlisted leader, the Chief, Jake Gerald. We really appreciate the opportunity to just get in front of the mic and give a little bit of an overview of what we do in the 9th Intelligence Squadron. We're on Beale Air Force Base, but we are not actually part of the 9th Reconnaissance Wing where the U-2s fly. Our wing, our parent wing, is actually at Langley Air Force Base, which is in Southern Virginia. It's in Hampton, Virginia. The work that we do 24/7, 365 is provide intelligence for combatant commanders. We do that in a number of ways. My squadron in particular has responsibility for processing, exploiting, and disseminating full motion video for MQ-9s. And then we also have analytic exploitation teams. My squadron in the 9th is one of 3 other squadrons that are part of the 548th ISR group. So we have a full colonel who's in charge of that group. That group is called DGS-2. DCGS Enterprise is a global enterprise comprised mostly of 480th ISR wing personnel, but there are folks in Langley Air Force Base, Beale Air Force Base, California, in Korea, in Hawaii, and in Germany. So it truly is a global kind of enterprise. One of the really neat things that our group commander told us recently is in 2025, DGS-2, of which we're a part, was a part of every single named operation in some shape or form that the United States military conducted through that calendar year. So you just think of all of the named operations. It is the responsibility of my squadron to really translate and convey the truth about what is going on the ground for combatant commanders for decisions. As we were back about an hour ago, we were remarking about how this kind of city council, what we have at Beale is like a little mini version of a city. So we've got fire and police, we've got our intelligence squadrons, and it really makes me appreciate the work that you guys do to make sure that everything is running smoothly, because as the chief and the DO will tell you, it is not a very easy thing to do to manage all of the folks that we have. We've got about 200 people in the squadron, and they vary from all source analysts, imagery analysts, signals, intelligence analysts, and then we also have the kind of blocking and tackling that you would expect from administrative functions. So all that to say, we very much appreciate the time here. I'm sorry I can't really go into too much of what we do, not only because we're being recorded, but because of a lot of it is very sensitive. But please trust us when we say that the work that we do is really, really important, and it is being conducted just 17 miles away at Beale Air Force Base. And we are standing watch 24/7 when I go to my operations floor, and I see my airmen visit my airmen at 2 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday just to kind of boost morale. When I leave, I always say thanks for standing watch. So that is what we're trying to provide for not only Yuba City, but for the entire United States of America. So Mark, thank you so much for the time, and I appreciate that.
Thank you, Lieutenant Colonel. I have the distinct honor and privilege of serving as an honorary commander for the 9th Intelligence Squadron, and certainly we understand completely the what's the right word? You can't share everything with us, but I know that they are integral to stuff that's going on. There was a few acronyms that maybe I think might help, because folks will watch this after the fact too. So MQ-9 is?
The MQ-9 is a drone, colloquially. It is the thing that has flown over Afghanistan and Iraq, can be armed or unarmed. Part of that, though, is there are sensors, full motion video is what FMV stands for. So it's my imagery analysts that are not flying the plane. That is done elsewhere, but it is our imagery analysts that are making the call on whether or not that is a person implanting an IED in the road, or that is a weapon, or that is not a weapon, right? So my very, very young 18 to 23-year-old airmen are making life and death calls very often, much, much more often than you would think.
Thank you for talking about the age of the folks that are doing the work for you, because I found that to be remarkable, is that, these young men and women are out there really on the front lines, but not on the front lines, if you will, and doing a remarkable job. Also, I think that ISR, maybe just to tell people what ISR stands for.
Yes, I apologize. ISR stands for Intel, Surveillance, and Reconnaissance, so Intelligence, Surveillance, and Reconnaissance.
I think we are for another word, blessed in our city, in our state, and our nation to have folks such as you all here tonight to protect us. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you. It's been a pleasure getting to know you. I hope we'll be connected for a little while longer, and I really appreciate you coming tonight. One of the reasons that we brought them over was to meet with all of the city staff. There are a fair amount of Beale personnel that live here in Yuba City, and we felt it was important that these folks who are leading that squadron of how many people?
We have 197 people as of today.
So, there's quite a few folks out there. They have access to the city now. They have contacts, and we are very pleased again to have you here tonight. Any questions from the council? All right.
Mr. Mayor, caca. That's
right. I got it. All right. At this time, I'd like to, again, thank those from the 9th IS for being here. They traveled from the base, and I know it's foggy out there, and I would love to see them get home safe. So it's up to you guys if you want to hang around for a little bit or not, but thank you so much for being here tonight. And I'm going to turn it over to Councilmember Shaw for the 7th Swiss.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's a privilege for me to introduce Major Hockert tonight, who is the Deputy Commander for 7 Space Warning Squadron, as we call it, 7 Swiss. And thank you for being here tonight. Tell us what's going on at 7 Swiss and why is it so important? Because it's that big thing on the hill out there, correct?
That is correct. Council Mayor, thank you very much for having us out here this evening. My name is Major Adam Hockert. I'm the Deputy Commander for the 7 Space Warning Squadron located on Beale Air Force Base. Uniquely, we are currently the only Space Force unit on Beale Air Force Base. A very unique opportunity for us. Our squadron is responsible for 3 main mission areas. So the first is the operation of the Upgraded Early Warning Radar System, or UEWR. That mission is tasked with homeland defense. So our radar can see up and down the entire west coast of the United States, and it's tasked with watching for incoming ballistic missiles. So we are guarding the homeland in that instance. Thankfully, though, based on the way that the radar is situated and how it works, we are also able to monitor space in low Earth orbit. So we are tracking satellites that are passing overhead at any given time. Our next mission is actually operating the long-range discrimination radar. This is very unique in the Space Force in the fact that we are operating a radar that's physically located in Clear, Alaska, but all of the operations and command and control are operated out of the ops floor that is in the UEWR radar. So both crews sit next to each other and can work with each other to provide tipping and queuing information and keep the mission going. And then lastly, we have our training mission. So there are 5 UEWR radars, both across the United States and across the world, the 5th one being located in Fylingdales in the UK. All of those radars are essentially the same weapon system. So we conduct the training mission for all of those radars at Beale. So all students, before they go out to their individual sites, will get trained up at our radar, which is a very cool mission set. We do that all with a very, very lean team. We have about 150 people that we consider part of our squadron. Of those 150 people, only 40 are active duty members. So we rely heavily on a contract and government civilian team that support us. And those are all members of the community. So we appreciate everything that you do to support not only us, but the contractors that work for us, as they are all your community members. At this time, I'll open up for any questions that you guys have.
Any questions for 7 Swiss? Again, thanks for being here. I just had the privilege of going out a few weeks ago and hadn't been out to 7 Swiss in about 30 years. And I can tell you that what they're doing has a global impact out there. And all you got to do is look at what's going on in the world on our TV. And between these 2 units, I guarantee you, they're tied to something somewhere because of what they're doing and how they're keeping us safe so that we know what's going on out there. And I just want to say thank you to all of you for serving, keeping us safe. And want to bring up something that we talked about when it was there. When I was in the Air Force, it was a lot of you were on crew, you did the job, you were expendable, you slept, you're on crew, you did your job, you're expendable. But there's been a big shift in the Air Force and the Space Force as a whole, and it's been about development of the airmen and the, what do we call them in the Space Force now?
Guardians, sir.
Guardians, there we go. But it's about development and as a person, professional development, everything. And a lot of them do like myself, and they end up here in the local area. And it's a huge benefit to us, all the training that's going on. So again, I just want to say thank you. And I know that Colonel Barlow could not be here tonight. He's a little under the weather, so thank you for keeping that at base and not here. But please extend our well wishes for him to get better, and to thank you for being here as well.
Of course.
Thank you, Major. Again, Beale is a super going concern, and it's always been this council's position to partner whenever, wherever, and however we can. And I know there's some potential for some new missions, et cetera, going out there, and we so value our relationship, and we look forward to continuing that and deepening it, even though I think it's pretty deep already. But anyway, thank you all for being here tonight. Please drive safe going home in this weather. It's always a pleasure to see you, and appreciate you sharing a little bit of what you could share of what you do. Thank you so much. All right, we'll move on to item number 2, which is the Yuba-Sutter Regional Safety Action Plan. This is an update by Fair and Pierce. This will be Josh Wolf who will start us off. Thank you, Mr. Wolf.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Tonight we're going to have a presentation by Adrian Engel of Fair and Pierce. I'll just do a quick introduction. I think last time I did an introduction for them, I stole half of their presentation. So in 23-24, Yuba County teamed with Sutter County and all area agencies kind of in our region, Yuba City, Live Oak, Marysville, Wheatland, to apply for a region-wide safety action plan through the Safe Streets for All grant program. They were awarded $800,000, and since that time, the counties and cities have been working collaboratively to create a plan to ultimately reduce severe and fatal collisions drastically in our areas. With that, I'll leave the technical items to Adrian.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for having me back. Again, just to talk a little bit about the Regional Safety Action Plan, we've been working on it for just over a year. And as Josh mentioned, involved both counties as well as the 4 cities in the region, really working collaboratively to try to tackle some of the traffic injury and fatality issues in the community. So as Josh mentioned, there was a grant that was received through Yuba County partnering with all of the cities. I think the thing to note here, though, is that this program, the Safe Streets for All grant, has different requirements than some of the previous state funding that we've received for traffic safety analysis. So the local road safety plan and the highway safety improvement program have gone through Yuba City before and qualify you for certain types of state funding. The Safe Streets for All had a different set of requirements, a more broad set of requirements that will qualify the city as well as the other communities in the region for a much larger pot of funding at the SACOG, at the state, and then also at the federal level. There was a goal stated within the plan that was part of the adoption that the Yuba-Sutter region will work collaboratively to eliminate traffic fatalities and serious injuries by 2050. This data is a requirement of that plan, but is also in alignment with the Caltrans Vision Zero goal as well with the same time frame. So we're trying to get all of the agencies in the region to have the same goal, walking forward that same Vision Zero achievement. Some of the technical data that we looked at is starting region-wide, looking at the 2 counties and looking at data between 2018 and 2023. Minimum of 5 years, but as we got into the project, the 2023 data became available, so we actually show six years of data. This data comes through the SWITRS program, California Highway Patrol, and it only represents injury collisions. So there's thousands of other collisions that are happening on our streets on a daily basis that are property damage only that don't get accounted for through this system. So all of the data that you're about to see is involved with either a minor, a moderate, severe, or a fatality-related collision. Throughout the region, we see about 900 injury collisions are happening each year in the 6 years of data that we looked at. Pretty consistent. We've seen a little bit of a spike during the COVID period when more people were out and driving at different times, and we even saw a little faster driving in some of those times as well. And then the second figure here shows the KSI crashes, and KSI stands for killed or seriously injured. So these are the most severe of the collisions of those 900. And so about 140 people every year in the Yuba-Sutter region are either killed or severely injured in some sort of capacity throughout this. And these are really the collisions that we want to target with a lot of the countermeasures that we've identified in the plan. As a trend, you guys will probably see a lot of this data that rings true for anybody that drives around here, but there's basically three primary collision types that we saw in the region, broadside being the greatest, rear end, and then a lot of hit objects, which was unique for this region compared to some urban areas. So people driving off the road and running into a ditch, another parked car, a tree, or something like that. So some of the rural areas within the counties saw many of these objects or hit objects as well. And then the last thing I want to touch on, in here, is that 39% of the crashes occurred on our state highways, so on the Caltrans facilities. Some of the planning work that we do, local cities and counties will choose to eliminate the Caltrans data from their data set and just focus on their own facilities. As a regional plan, the group decided to include Caltrans in these conversations. So many of the corridors that we've identified are your state routes, so that the local agencies can partner with Caltrans to try to tackle some of these changes and not be working on in these in isolation. Yuba-Sutter, or Yuba City specifically, had about 1,600 crashes, injury crashes in that 6-year time period, but about 28% of them were involved with killed or seriously injured crashes. You can see on the heat map here, the brighter yellow areas were the concentration of collisions. So many of the roads that I'm sure you're getting calls about and experiencing are showing up there as well. I do want to highlight that we've tracked bicycle and pedestrian-related involved collisions separately, and you can see that they make up a much bigger percentage of those involved in the KSI crashes. Besides the technical analysis, we also got out into your communities. We had a project website with a social pinpoint interactive web map. We formed a safety task force that composed of agency staff like Josh, law enforcement, both PD and Highway Patrol and Sheriff, as well as representatives from school districts and local advocates, met on a semi-regular basis, and they were very instrumental in shaping the direction that the plan went. We also got into the community with a few different pop-up activities at the food bank, working with Blue Zones as well, and then 4 public listening sessions where we held meetings in the 4 communities listed here, including at your aquatic center, to bring the community down to hear about the issues that we were seeing and help shape some of the plan moving forward. One of the outcomes of the plan is to help the city identify a series of safety corridors. With new state law, safety corridor represents the 25% of the total KSI collisions within your community, but it's less than 20% of the roadways. And so we've created a map here and within the plan. The orange lines and the red lines combined create your safety corridor network. These corridors allow you to apply for special funding through this program, as well as some additional accommodations for lowering speed limits and some other safety accommodations as well. So looking into the AB 43 around safety corridors can help these corridors qualify for some of that allocation. On top of that, the red corridors we identified were the priority corridors that had the highest rates of collision and some of the worst corridors identified in the data set that we had. So it included SR 20 and 99, as well as Stabler Lane, Walton Avenue, Gray Avenue, and Bridge Street, as some of the priority areas that we worked on with the community staff to sort of start addressing as well. And then finally, the plan not only highlights the problem, but highlights the solutions as well. So there's a suite of engineering and programmatic countermeasures identified in the plan. We have an engineering countermeasure toolbox that pairs different treatments and programs to certain collision profiles and collision types to help match those up. So your public works program can start looking at addressing specific issues. We also have guidance around implementation and funding. And then most importantly, it's an action plan. So there's a suite of actions that were identified for the region as part of the plan to work collaboratively on reducing those fatalities and serious injuries and working on some of these programs, engineering solutions as well. So with that, thank you for your time.
Josh, are you going to come up or are we free to begin to ask questions?
However you want to go about it. Adrian will probably be the best on the technical side, but I'd be able to answer with regard to the city's capital improvement operations.
Okay. Any questions from the council?
Just a comment, Mayor.
Okay.
I was looking through this in the packet. I've asked to get more detail because I have a hard time using a computer to digest this type of information. I was very, very impressed with the thoroughness and giving an action plan and having a clear picture of what we can actually do. And I thank you for that. Yeah, it was money well spent.
Through the mayor?
Yes.
Josh, you know what I'm going to ask, right? So is Sanborn on that for a potential, what'd you call it, the public safety corridor? Is that eligible?
It doesn't, but that doesn't necessarily exclude it. We can still pull Switter's reports looking at Sanborn Road and from that utilize some of the traffic countermeasures that they provided. And I will say from experience, Farron Piers has prepared previous plans for us. They're currently working on our active transportation plan and have done others in the past. Those engineering toolboxes are excellent because through grant writing for our staff and just wanting to stay up on current knowledge and what the best practices are and what are the most effective methods of implementing safety improvements for traffic and active transportation, those toolboxes are extremely useful. So,
thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else? Josh, you know what I'm going to mention real quick. I think SR 20 from Western Parkway to Feather River would include the El Margarita and the State Route 20. Perfect. Okay. Anybody else? All right. Thank you. Appreciate the presentation and the work.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to move on to item number 4, statewide park development and community revitalization program presentation. Again, Mr. Wolf.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So tonight I'm coming to you with an exciting opportunity, and we're not really looking for any action, but wanted to make you all aware of this unique opportunity and get input from you all, see what your thoughts are. So there has been a grant recently open to the public. That's the Statewide Park Development and Community Revitalization Program. Through this program, the intent of the program is to create new parks and recreation opportunities in critically underserved communities in California. The program's been around under different names and iterations since about 2009. Since the program was implemented in 2009, there's been about $7.7 billion in requests for projects, and of that, $1.2 billion in awarded projects, or in terms of numbers of projects, 313 projects awarded. The requirements for the projects are that they must develop or acquire and develop new parks, expand existing parks, or renovate existing parks. Under this grant program, there are a very wide variety of components that can be included in the parks. This grant program will fund athletic fields and courts, sports complexes. So you can think soccer, baseball, basketball. We have a very athletic youth sports community that can benefit from this. You can fund community centers, recreation centers, so long as they're either in or connected to parks. They listed golf courses, including mini golf, disc golf. They can support trails, including pedestrian and bike bridges, shared use paths, green belts, and linear parks. Features of the parks can include, you can have dog park components, walking loops, outdoor fitness, open space, picnic areas, plazas, and food truck areas. And lastly, you can include support amenities such as restroom buildings, snack shacks, parking lots, landscaping and lighting, perimeter fence, and security cameras. I mean, outside of that, I can't really think of much more to add to a park, but it's a very wide criteria that you can include in this. It also including the process to develop the park, such as design. Requirements for the grant are that the city either owns, acquires, or enters into a lease or a turnkey agreement for property in which the city would operate the facility. Acquisition costs are eligible. Project types, like I said, creating a new park, expanding an existing, or renovating an existing park. The site eligibility, there's two criterion. One, either you need to have within a radius of 1,000 residents, you need to have 3 or less acres of park, or you need to be below the statewide median household income. There's a number of areas in Yuba City that qualify under not only one, but both of those, which helps scoring higher. And then lastly, community-based planning for this. One of the most highly rated criterion in this is getting community output or outreach done and taking that into consideration with the park development. So regarding funding information, this is where it gets really exciting. The grant request, the maximum request you can ask for is $8.5 million. Minimum request, $200,000. And regarding multiple applications, you are allowed to apply. You can put in, there's no cap on the amount of grants you can apply for, and there's no cap on dollar amount either. In their application guidelines, it actually says that an agency can receive multiple grants and have a total of over $8.5 million awarded. And the best part, there is no match requirement. The grant may pay for the entire project. Obviously, if costs are higher at a certain point, we'll have to match, or we would have to match any cost above the total amount awarded, but it's rare that you find a no match grant. I just wanted to share a few different examples of parks that were funded through this program over the years. So on the top two, you have some that were funded in earlier cycles. So the top left is Connors Park in San Marcos, California. It looks like they have sports fields, playground, restroom buildings, and things like that. Rimmerl Park on the top right in San Pablo, California. It's a majority of sports fields with some community picnic areas and play areas. The bottom left is a more recent project, 2020-2021 funded, Enchanted Hills Community Parks in Paris, California. And you can see a variety of inclusions there, such as skate parks, playgrounds, parking lots, shade structures. And then bottom right, another one that, in that one, they were actually awarded the full $8.5 million. And then the bottom right, another project, same timeline, $7.6 million. And they didn't have a lot of pictures for this project, but it looks like they have a lot of good, inclusive, high-quality play structures and skate park. Now, those are some examples, but I wanted to take a look at what the city's goals are, what our strategic plan is, and what would be the best options for us in the case that we decided that we should apply for this grant. So thinking back to our strategic planning meetings and just knowing the need for recreation opportunities, I kind of came up with 4 examples. The first one would be a sports complex, including a community center. So here's a rendering I put together just to make it very clear. There's been no outreach done with neighboring property owners. This is conceptual only, just wanting to show if you had a 24-acre parcel, what you could fit on it. So for reference, this is Sam Brannan Park here, and I'll just hover over some of the areas. In this Kmart area, what we kind of had a concept of was a Little League complex where you have some Little League softball fields, Little League baseball fields, a full-size baseball field, which like for high school or other, and some t-ball fields. In the middle of that, you'd have a gymnasium and community center where recreation could be based out of, a large parking lot in the middle where it would connect to the UPRR trail. And then on the south side, Sam Brannan Park, we'd have a lot of transformation going on there with soccer fields of all sizes. We would remove the existing playground, restroom structures, move the playground up north while keeping the skate park, the pickleball and tennis courts, the existing parking lot, and the bocce courts that were recently constructed. So that's in looking throughout the city at parcels that might fit this. We looked at areas with bare land, areas that had property, areas that the city owned or didn't own. And this was just one example on the lower end of acreage, being 24 acres. We found spots up to 51 acres or more. We're still looking around because the grant program has an interactive online tool where you can kind of look around the city and see where the areas that would compete the best in terms of points for the grant are. So not a conclusive list by any means. This is just a representation of an idea. Next, like I said, mini golf is a thing that is fully funded by this grant program. Speaking with the recreation staff, there's a lot of underutilized grassy areas kind of on the south side of the gap. An idea is, what if we converted this to mini golf? It could turn the gap into a year-round site where we're getting revenue, and in theory, the operations costs for mini golf is pretty expensive if you don't have a lot of mechanical features. If it's just turning on the lights, having someone operating the front counter and someone kind of maintaining things, it should be pretty good, and also add a good amount of recreational opportunity for youth and adults in the area. Third one, there was some public outreach in the last year with Caltrans selling their property. Public had some concerns and wishes for a dog park. We own a property in the Stonegate neighborhood that's 2 acres that could potentially be turned into local neighborhood park, but also it has a good fenced-in area that could be converted to a dog park at some point. This case, there'd be no acquisition required. The city already owns the parcels. It would just be kind of remediating, cleaning up the site, and installing the new features. And then the last option, we've applied for this before, and mind you, I forgot to add these 2 parcels in here, but a passive park along Bridge Street. Once again, something that qualifies for this grant program. It would be able to beautify the area and improve the quality of life. The city already owns the parcels, so really it would just be development cost. So with that, just wanted to throw some ideas out based on what staff could think of. We really see this as a great opportunity. Zero match grants are hard to come by, and just wanted to present this to you all, see what your thoughts are, and go from there. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions, take in any thoughts or recommendations.
Well, this is the kind of presentation we like. Money, relatively few strings attached. Questions for Mr. Wolf?
Through the mayor.
Please.
If I can. Mr. Wolf, go back to the last slide you had there on Bridge Street. I get that we want to green that up, but we had, and there's actually drawings and everything already, for that to be a veterans park, and it's so fitting with the military being here tonight. Would we be able to put a veterans park in there and still qualify for these grants?
Yes, and don't quote me on it. I believe it falls under the Greenway or passive grant or passive park program or description. And in just reviewing the numerous applications, it did look like there was a veterans park in another agency that had been awarded. So I think this would qualify.
Cool. Thank you.
Through the mayor,
please.
Mr. Wolf, go back to your Sam Brannan. Okay. There's been discussions being whirled around and keeping our kids here because of all the great travel stuff that they all do, that it's a huge boost to any community that has a facility or facilities that put these programs on. Because I know there's people sitting in this room that travel up and down this state spending their money at hotels and restaurants out of our community. That would be the direction this council member would be thinking of direction. With the flip side of that, I think possibly having a food truck type facility placed in something like this, because kids eat, moms eat, dads eat, I think would be my direction for you with this presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, through the mayor. So initially I did have questions because you didn't get to the dog park or the mini golf yet, but those are just both fantastic ideas. And I'm glad you went back to this slide because I would echo what Mike said. As a high school teacher and middle school teacher, I am betting about 50% of my students actually play soccer, and many of them are on a travel team. So I've heard from constituents too, by the way, we really need new baseball and softball fields for our kids. So great idea there. I don't know the dimensions, but is it possible to put a soccer field in place of the adult field?
Oh, sorry. You're talking, so this is a 200 by 300 soccer field. So I think that's full size. When I was drawing this up, I was kind of just basing it off of river bottoms. This could all be manipulated and moved around. I think you can make it, and in talking with our recreation supervisors after creating this, I think you can make multiple large soccer fields, and then those can be downsized or goalpost placed at different locations to accommodate for the smaller fields.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure about that part of the park covering up what's currently there. So, okay, thanks. That was awesome. I hope this happens.
Through the mayor.
Go ahead.
Thanks, Josh. This one has a lot of ifs on it. One particular big if. But if this is to happen, who runs it?
There's there are options to how we want to go about that. I don't want to speculate too much, but we could always enter into agreements with the local little leagues to lease the fields for use, and then their funds can come back to operation and maintenance on our side. One unique feature with this is the community center. We have a lot of shared use agreement or facility use agreements with Yuba-Sutter or the school district, and that being using their gymnasiums for basketball. If we were able to implement this gymnasium here, we could handle that on our own, not get kicked out of facilities if they have something else going on or maintenance. We'd have a little bit more redundancy on our side. I guess to go back to the question, there's options there. I think we might let the Little Leagues operate the programs themselves, but that's really all I have. Robert, do you have anything you wanted to add?
Actually, I do, but I was going to wait until the mayor provides his comments, and I have a few summary comments, Mr. Mayor.
My turn, huh? Well, I saw two projects up there that really piqued my interest, and then a third concept. But this one from a father who chased 3 boys all over at least the middle and western United States of America, having something in our own backyard that could attract not only or keep our folks home, but also attract those who would come use our restaurants or hotels, et cetera, intrigues me. The Veterans Park on Bridge Street also definitely intrigues me. My concern would be, what is the most competitive, right? And so I think you have some demographic concerns that you're going to have to take into consideration. The operational costs, definitely, who's going to do that? But there's lots of different models for that as well out there that I think that we can explore. But at the end of the day, for me, the third one, which has just piqued my interest, which is this food truck concept, whether we co-locate it at something like this or even do something off-site, where we can funnel those folks who are legally permitted to do their health or their food business. That also intrigues me. So to give them a place to do their commerce, keep them permitted, et cetera. So I saw that as one of them. But at the end of the day, I think I would be really relying on whomever's going to tell us which one has the most highest level of potential funding. And that would be the one I would, not help, but hope that we could go towards.
Thank you. I do have one question for council. would you be interested in putting in multiple applications, or would you rather apply for one that has put the most resources in the one that we feel has the highest likelihood of being awarded?
This is a question for me first, or for you first, and maybe Mr. Bendorf. I'm pretty familiar with, there's a lot of grant companies out there who seem to have the pulse of what's doable and what's not doable, or what's fundable and not fundable. I think asking us is, let's put in 10 million applications, but if that dilutes our ability to get one or two funded, I would be concerned about. That's just my opinion, council.
Through the mayor, I guess the question is, what's the downside of doing more than one?
Your turn, Robert.
With that question? Yeah, I don't know if there is a downside. I mean, it's just as long as we have a clear path forward and direction, which we'll be seeking from your council, in the near future. We just wanted to introduce the topic to you before this gets away from us and deadlines pass and we don't take action. And for staff, I think we're really excited at a potential opportunity like this. But when it comes to operational costs, I mean, listen, we have some challenges with our recreation programming now. Do the fees that we collect sustain our recreation programs? Absolutely not. Your council allocates millions of dollars every year for recreation programs that aren't covered by revenues received for those participating. And when you look at the opportunity that our families and children have here in Yuba City, some take advantage of what we have to offer, such as GAP and our other recreation programs, but we also serve thousands of residents from the Yuba-Sutter area. So for me, it's looking at a regional concept. Right? If we look at these parks, we call it a regional park, and you put yourselves on the map. If you look to the south of us, and only a 30-minute drive away, they have a Spring Hill Suites, and I can promise you this, I've had relatives come into town and go to stay there. My gosh, if it's a volleyball tournament weekend or if it's a softball tournament weekend, good luck. Every hotel is just about booked. And especially the Spring Hill Suites, which we have one going up, in Yuba City. So as an example, but you bring that regional flavor to it. So people come from out of the area, and if you look at potential public-private partnerships and running an operation like that, that's how I think we get creative in covering those operational costs. I never want to say no that we can't do it, because I think we can. And maybe it's other benefactors that want to contribute to making it worthwhile. The other thing I would add is that everything's connected. So, Mr. Mayor, as you and I discussed recently, I ran some data regarding what kind of a sales tax leakage that we have in Yuba City, and looked at 30 different categories. So the unmet need overall is about $500 million of a variety of things, from certain kinds of restaurants, food stores, et cetera. One of the ones, and looking at all the ones that have a 50% and above unmet need, one of those is sports merchandise and other things. And I think it's in the area of 60 to 70% unmet need. That means people are traveling from here, going elsewhere to purchase their sports equipment. And so if you have a concept like this you introduce, and then you actually are awarded something, and you bring regional tournaments, and it's something large enough to attract folks, they will spend their money there at those sports stores. And you see it happening all around us. So again, everything's connected: the hotel stays, the food, the sports stores, et cetera. But I'm not saying just this one opportunity puts us on the map, but this opportunity presented by Josh when he first talked to me about it a few weeks back, I said, let's get this in front of council and just, see what they think overall, the concept, and we would come back with asking you for direction. But again, you mentioned about the local Little Leagues, and that sort of strikes a chord with me. I mean, some of these Little League fields have been around a lot longer than all of us. I mean, even Peach Bowl Little League. I mean, my grandfather coached there. My dad played there. I played there. I'm no spring chicken, obviously. And so they've been around and they're aged and their infrastructure is aged, et cetera. But if we provide an opportunity for our youth on a big scale, why not give it a shot? If we miss, I'd rather aim high, and because it benefits all of Yuba City and potentially the region. So that's why we're bringing this to you today. And as far as the Veterans Park, I mean, could you split it up? Yes. But I would encourage your council to really think, how everything's connected. And you can potentially turn a concept like this, and I'm not saying that the Kmart property combined with San Brennan is the option. We just did that because it's a big parcel or two big parcels next to each other. You have the potential of maybe naming them Veterans Fields. Are we dedicated to Veterans Regional Sports Complex? Something along those lines. I mean, listen, we are a defense community, so that makes perfect sense. The strip along Bridge Street there, hey, great concept. And you making that as a usable park, but what is it used for? You're limited in the property that's there. It's not going to attract people from over the area. But yeah, maybe that's something we go after. But we keep the veterans thing in mind, which I think is really important, and we somehow tie it into the big picture. So that's our hope at the end of the day, and we appreciate your council listening. I loved hearing the input because that'll help guide us when we come back and ask for the full direction. Sorry I went on a little bit about this, but as we're doing our economic studies right now, our economic development studies and finding out what fits and some of the exercises we've already gone through, this is just an incredible opportunity for our families here in Yuba City. I'll stop there.
No need to stop. You're on a roll and we like it. Any other questions for either the city manager or Mr. Wolf? Mr. Wolf, do you have any more questions of us?
I don't think so. I have clear direction. Thank you all.
All right. Thank you. All right. Moving on to item number 5, this is the appearance of interested citizens. You are welcome and encouraged to participate in this meeting. Public comment is taken on action items appearing on the consent calendar or business items on the agenda when they are called. Public comment on any other items within the scope of the city's jurisdiction, including items not listed on the agenda, will be considered at this time. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes per speaker. Members of the public submitting written requests at least 24 hours prior to the meeting will be allotted 5 minutes to comment per speaker. Repetitive comments may be limited, and large groups are encouraged to select representatives to express the opinions of the group. I have one speaker card, but before I get to the speaker card, do we have any comments from the public? You getting up, Josh? Oh, okay. You couldn't tell. All right. With that, then we have Mr. Tony Farley.
Fire Chief. You sure you were class A stills?
I can't fit into my class A's anymore. Oh, thank you.
Okay, put your class A.
Maybe in a few months.
Yeah. Mr. Robert Spring Chicken Robert, Spring Chicken, man. You're Spring Chicken, right? You're Spring Chicken. And don't forget, the Navy SEAL versus the Chief Police arm wrestle, man. That'd be awesome, man. Arm wrestling the Chief Police of Navy SEAL, Don Shipley and Jess Ventura, man. Space Force. We got Space Force in the house, bro. We got Space Force. United States Space Force, man. The nurse department, the nurse department of the Air Force, nurse department of the Air Force. Like a men's department in the Marine Corps, men's department in the Navy. Well, we have nurse. We call it geek nerd department of the Air Force. Get the nerds and geeks of the Air Force, Space Force. Get. And Dave Shaw is part Doug Moffa and part Brandon Barnes. Dave Shaw is Italian, but he's Italian. He's part Italian. Dave Shaw is Italian. He's part Doug Moffa and part Brandon Barnes. and Sean Chief from Fresno. Dude, you need law firm in Sacramento, dude. Sacramento's closer to here than Fresno, dude. Sacramento's closer, dude. Sacramento's close. And Tony Coral, the Tony for council. And Michael, the Santa Claus, man. Santa Claus, Michael. He's Santa Claus with a Medal of Valor. And Wade, man, yeah. And Sierra. And because that the public works director, the big beard, the dynasty beard, big dynasty beard, right there, the dynasty. And Chief Hover, and Doug Livy, And don't forget Sharon over there, and don't forget the detectives. And more thought for Doug Moffa. Pray for Doug Moffa. Pray for him. Rest in peace and Italian heaven, Doug Moffa.
Thank you, Tony. All right, consent calendar is our next item. All matters listed on the consent calendar are considered to be routine and can be enacted in one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items prior to the time that the council votes on the motion, unless members of the city council request specific items to be discussed or removed from the consent calendar for individual action. Do we have any comments from the public on consent calendar items 6 through 18? Public comments? Not seeing any. All right, back to the council for a for a motion.
Through the mayor, move to approve consent calendar items 6 through 18.
Second.
Have a motion by Council Member Kirchner, second by Vice Mayor Pasquale. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the consent calendar has been passed unanimously. Okay. Moving along to item number 19. Community sponsorship request, Girls on the Run. I need to recuse myself as I am a member of the board or board member for the Girls on the Run, so I will be turning the meeting over to Mr. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, Ms. Wakefield, could you please give us our presentation?
Absolutely. Good evening, Vice Mayor and Council. I'm here this evening to share a community sponsorship request from Girls on the Run of the North State. As many of you know, Girls on the Run is an organization that inspires girls in 3rd through 8th grade to lead healthy, joyful, confident lives through evidence-based curriculum and the power of running. Helps them develop leadership skills, healthy habits, and ultimately become contributing members of our community. So we like that. They are looking for $1,800 in sponsorship, which will help them to continue to provide programming to every girl who would like to participate. This funding supports training for the coaches, curriculum and materials, and an end of the season 5K that allows the girls to put everything that they learned together during their 10-week program and cross the finish line more connected and more confident than they were when they started. So with that, I will open it up for questions. Well, sorry, not yet. Just so you guys know where we are at this point with the budget and community contributions, we have already received some requests and granted some sponsorships over the last 2 quarters. So you can see here that if the request from the Girls on the Run in the amount of $1,800 is granted, that will leave our community contributions account with a balance of $7,200. And again, community events, we had some requests come earlier in the year, and so our balance in that account is $5,500. So typically we have about $2,500 per quarter to allocate toward these types of events. There we go. Alternatives don't authorize the sponsorship request. We can approve a sponsorship request with changes, so in another amount if you feel that's more appropriate, or you can provide other direction. So the recommendation, of course, is to adopt a resolution to approve a monetary sponsorship request from the Girls on the Run in the amount of $1,800. And now I will open it to questions.
Thank you. Any questions from council members? Seeing, okay, please.
Through the Vice Mayor. Do you know, Sierra, if the girls are individually getting sponsorships as well, like fundraising or anything like that?
I am not sure. I can look into it for you if that's important.
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, so very familiar with Girls on the Run, actually. In volunteer work with Yuba-Sutter United Way over, I forget how long we had as a partner agency Girls on the Run, but in my 18 years with the United Way, I would say I know at least half of that. And so we went through several different presentations, and the girls actually do go fundraise as well as individually and collectively. And we really saw some really good benefits of the program. We would have them come in and speak to the entire board, but a very worthwhile program. That's just my 2 cents, Councilmember Cole.
Thank you. I agree with you. And just was curious about more of that entrepreneurial part for the young women, but that's it. Thank you.
I have a couple of questions and comments, Sierra. I saw an extensive list of schools, and I think every grammar school and middle school in the Yuba City Unified School District participates in this, if I'm not correct.
Yes.
However, I would, in the future, could you please ask whoever asked for this money if they could kind of include some numbers of how many girls are being affected by this? How is this money being stretched to get more involved? All of those kind of things, the nuts and bolts, for me is very important to see. If I'm giving you $1,800, if it's just kind of a blank wall, I trust our city manager's input on this immensely, but I like to see some more numbers and such in the future if you could pass that along. Okay?
Absolutely.
Okay. Any further questions from council? Okay. Open this up for public comment. No public comment? Closing for public comment. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second. I have a first and second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any, well, I guess we don't. All four of us answered it. Okay. So with that, is 19 is action taken.
Move for approval for a new gavel. I know I can.
I apologize. That's 40 years of having a hammer in my hand.
Well, the mayor did say a few weeks ago it might be time to get a new one, so you guys help me.
And it's looking cracked. And I think it just got cracked more. I don't know. All right, item number 20, assignment of city council to regional boards and committees. This was the annual assignment of folks to our very many regional committees, which include local committees, regional committees, and statewide committees, actually. I took the opportunity for your consideration to also conclude several ad hoc committees. One of those is the Habitat for Humanity. I think we're on our way with Merriment. It's always available to be reestablished should we see the need. The community outreach. I know that again, these things are set to only have a time certain, so we can always reestablish community outreach when and if the time becomes necessary. And then probably most significantly is the Sikh Parade Ad Hoc Committee. It's not that we're going to abandon that. I just think it's more appropriately named the Sikh Festival Committee because it's not really a parade anymore or a Sikh event. But when we get down the road here in a meeting or two, then I think it's time to reestablish a couple of us to sit on that particular ad hoc committee, and we'll, if with your approval at that time, then we'll rename it. Other than that, the list has been published for your review. There was a handout tonight. There was one difference that was made that it actually was just an error in the final copy. The one that was sent to you several weeks ago was the correct copy. So with that, any public comment? All right, seeing none, then the action, we'll turn it over to council for potential action.
Through the mayor, move to approve council committee assignments.
Okay. Second. I have a motion by Councilmember Shaw, second by the Vice Mayor. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, item number 20 passes unanimously. Thank you. Number 21, mobile open air and sidewalk vending ordinance update. This is going to be presented by Mr. Doug Libby.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Good to be with you. Okay, so we're going to talk about an update to our mobile vendor ordinance. Tonight we're really seeking for some direction, input from your council, and then hopefully initiating a code update that would look at updating how we regulate mobile vending operations, including seizure of equipment of illegal vendors serving food, implement new state requirements involving sidewalk vending, and clarify limitations on regulations to promote young entrepreneurs. So our current mobile vending ordinance was established in 2010, and it has not been updated since. And there's just been substantial changes in business practices, how the public perceives these uses, and there's been largely comprehensive change at the state level regulating how we can regulate these businesses. So some brief background. We as a city has seen a significant spike in illegal vending operations, especially with illegal food vendors temporarily setting up on both public and private property. Operations can be quite extensive, including tents, generators, lights, food service areas, tables, chairs, music. These pop-up restaurants are often trespassing, don't comply with food safety laws overseen by Sutter County. They violate safety and ADA requirements and can be incompatible with existing uses. Vendors place lawfully operating establishments, and that's brick and mortar restaurants, and then even licensed food truck vendors at a competitive disadvantage. Now, city code enforcement does periodic off-hour enforcement, but despite these efforts, operators continue to pop up across the city. And in fact, most recent enforcement evening we closed down one vendor, came back about an hour and a half later, they were setting back up to go back into business again in the exact same spot. Operators can claim not to have identification, have a language barrier, making implementing administrative citations challenging and impossible to collect, as most of these vendors come from outside the area. So we can issue all the administrative fines we want, but we will never collect on them. That's been a frustrating part for code enforcement. So from our last enforcement action, here's some pictures. And so I would draw your attention to a few things. So you will see here's the generator. You're going to see the coolers, but we don't know if the temperatures this food is being kept at meets food safety requirements. I also reference this, I'll call it a cone of meat over here that has no protection from insects. Now, in the wintertime, you have fewer insects. During the spring and summertime, we have a lot more insects, and there's just no protection out there. Similar across these other operations, again, the generator, food being unkept at unsafe temperatures. But the one thing I would draw your attention to with all these, you won't see a hand washing station. There is none. And I say just let that sink in for a second. And think about what the brick and mortars have to put in place. Think about what even a food truck operator, they're required to do. So we've divided the ordinance update into three different sections. The one is, first would be the open air vendors. So the preliminary ordinance that we've put together with a lot of help from our city attorney focuses on, for the open air vendors, seizing and disposing of perishable materials, including unsafe food, seizing equipment associated with the operation. Equipment could be stored by the city for 30 days and then disposed of if not claimed. Owner could reclaim the property upon providing suitable evidence of ownership. Costs incurred to salvage, dispose, store impounded property can be assessed against any responsible person, including the owner, and also establish an appeal process. Now, these requirements are over and above existing food vendor requirements or having appropriate Sutter County environmental health permits or a city business license. The second area is sidewalk vending. Now, as I'm sure you may have heard from the city attorney before, the state continues to tie locals' hands, and this is one area where they've really done so, and that's through Senate Bill 946 and some companion legislation that went with it. It limits the ability of local governments to regulate sidewalk vendors, except as authorized under law. And so basically, the city is prohibited from regulating sidewalk vendors unless it adopts an ordinance that directly and it objects directly related to health, safety, or welfare concerns. Those are the only things that the city is allowed to provide restrictions on. Now, the preliminary draft ordinance establishes a program requiring, among other things, limitations on sidewalk vending in residential zones, in parks with concessions, restricting hours of operation, compliance with ADA and local permit requirements, Sutter County environmental health regulations, distance requirements from special events, things of that nature. Under state law, violations would be subject and are only punishable by administrative fine. Last one is youth entrepreneurs. I think this one's really important because I think it's every few years you see some article in the news where someone doesn't like youth entrepreneurs, submits a complaint to a city, and some poor code enforcement officers just doing their job. And unfortunately, it's like stopping Girl Scouts from selling Girl Scout cookies and things of that nature. Well, we're building into our ordinance a provision that exempts those things. Many youth have had their first business opportunities from a simple stand in front. You could think of the lemonade stand, baked goods, or the Girl and Boy Scouts selling goods. Currently, many of those city ordinances around the state prohibit these activities. We're looking at build in an exception to that. And then the preliminary draft ordinance proposes to establish these exceptions for minors under the age of 18. So next steps. We're asking your council for your input, for your guidance and direction. And then with that, we'd incorporate it. We would need to take forward the draft ordinance to the Planning Commission because the mobile vendor ordinance is under the zoning code. And so we would get a recommendation from the Planning Commission and then return to your council, where, as you know, it takes two visits, one for the initial first reading and then a second reading to adopt an ordinance. So the recommendation, initiate a municipal code amendment to Title 8, Chapter 5, Article 53 to update our mobile vendor ordinance. And so with that, I would conclude my comments and just note that the city attorney is also here with me to help answer any questions you may have.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Libby. Questions from the council? I know there's questions or comments.
Okay, I thought the Vice Mayor had some. Mr. Libby, thank you. I want to thank you and Mr. Chaffin for all the work you guys have put into this. Went through it line by line, and we've got a good foundation, I think, with what's been brought forward. The question I'm going to pose here is one we met earlier on. And just for clarification, what rights and what options under the new ordinances does property owners have for protections? Because we know what's going on in our city. These operations are just popping up. They're not getting permission. They're just showing up, setting up in a parking lot or setting up in front of a business. What can be done now? And then how will this work in kind of the future going forward with dealing with these situations? Will the property owners be, I guess, held responsible for, the operation that's on their property, or does this go directly and focus on those vendors? Whichever one of you guys want to talk about that.
Doug's looking at me. Thank you, Doug. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I've talked enough.
So this ordinance, if it's passed, gives the council and code enforcement some additional options. So there's different types of operations that we've seen out there, and Doug and I have discussed this a lot, and Robert and everybody else, as we've tried to come to a proposal for the council that meets everything. So in some operations, for example, you will see basically a food truck or a trailer on private property that is there 24 hours a day, shut up at night, opens the next morning, shut, open, shut, open, shut. There are a couple ways we can approach that, one of which is technically just becoming more of a permanent operation there. Not really a mobile food truck at that point, it's a permanent operation. If there are any CUPs or anything else, the city can proceed against the owner and say, hey, you're in violation of the zoning code. You are not authorized to do this unless they have a conditional use permit or something that allows them to do it. So we can take enforcement action that way. The other enforcement action is your code requires them to move at least 600 feet on a regular basis, and you can't return to the same location the same day. Well, obviously those operations are not doing that. So, of course, usually code goes through a warning process, gives them a chance to clean up their act, and if they don't, this ordinance allows the city to go in and actually take and remove the vehicle, depending on what the situation is, because of, especially if it's giving food and procuring food, because of the threat to public health, safety, and welfare. So that's for operations that are on the property with the owner's consent. So let's talk about operations that are on a property. We'll call it home lows, for lack of a better word. Let's say they're a big department store or a store that sells home goods of some sort, and people are out there and they are doing this vending on this private property. Well, again, there are, if it's food vending, the city does have opportunities to come in and say, do you have your license? Do you have your permits? Do you have all this stuff? And if not, those can be seized. The other thing is there's nothing in this ordinance. This ordinance is very clear. You cannot trespass. And in fact, I think we, and speaking to this more, there's some portion in the section 5360 where it says it's illegal to conduct business in an unlawful manner or in such a manner to constitute a breach of peace. And we could certainly add the words or trespass as part of that to constitute a menace to the public health, safety, or welfare of the public. The other thing that property owners can do is they can actually post signs, say no vending, no, no sales, none of that. That allows code enforcement to say, well, you obviously don't have owner approval to come here. And it helps provide clarity to the code enforcement options as to who is where and whether or not they have permission. And then, of course, the final thing that we do is the ordinance does have protections for city property. Because as you know, sometimes there are public entity properties out there, sometimes there are lots, sometimes City Hall, whatever the case may be, where people want to come up and start vending in a certain fashion. So we do have protections against that, even for sidewalk vendors, which, as you know, under state law, we're very limited. Again, the state coming in and tying our hands. But sidewalk vendors are limited to a narrow band of where they can operate. And just because you can operate within that narrow band does not mean you can go outside that band, because then you become a different type of operator. And so if they're operating outside that context or operating in front of City Hall, we now have regulations or have more regulations for enforcement actions against us. So, Councilmember, I know that was a long response, but I hope I answered all your questions.
No, you did. I appreciate it, because those were some concerns as we met earlier that, came up, because it was, how does it affect the property owners after we look at an ordinance like this? Because again, we see them popping up, and I would venture to say that probably the vast majority of them do not have permission. They roll up, they set up, they do their operations. I do want to, again, thank you guys for what you brought forward. It's very well thought out moving forward. But there is another key piece to this that we need to make sure the public knows, and that is we have to have the help and support on an ongoing, continual basis from environmental health, from the county. That's where all the food permits and everything comes from, and they're going to be a large part of helping us get this under control. So,
and do you mind if I chime in briefly on that? The county needs to be a partner, and we need to be, in order to make this successful, we need to be a partners. We're parts of the puzzle. And this is not going to be a complete solution, but it provides the city more opportunities, but it also allows us to work more closely with the county as well. So it's a mechanism by which we can complement one another.
Yep. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Through the mayor, just real quickly, regardless of what the council decides to do tonight, I'm assuming it's still unlawful to set something up like this, like a pop-up on the shoulder of a state highway. Is that a yes?
I hate to say the word it depends, but it depends on a whole bunch of things. So it depends where on the state highway, whether it's on state. The state can come in and say, hey, you're obstructing a state highway. They have enforcement jurisdiction there. We also have certain enforcement jurisdiction. However, the easiest way to shut down operations like that is county health. They can come in and they can seize the foods at there. And I can tell you, meat's expensive, as we've all been to the grocery store. And if you see some meat that's not meeting the standards and confiscate the food, do that a couple of times. I predict that will discourage unlawful activity of that sort.
Okay, my comments. A few things. Number one, I appreciate the conversation about the property owner's responsibility and some of the activities that they could potentially do in regards to protecting themselves from these illegal, I'm going to call them squatters, for lack of a better term. I always had a bit of a problem, or heartache anyway, if we were after the property owner for somebody that landed on their property unbeknownst to the property owner and suffered whatever. I will say that an unnamed local elected official from the other side of the river approached me and said, "Hey, whatever you're doing over there is working because they're coming over here." So I smiled and said, well, if you want to take a look, there's been some folks that have worked really hard on something over here. Maybe you need to do it on your side of the river as well. So it becomes more of a regional thing than the push and pull that I think we've seen over the years, where something happens on the Yuba County side and everything floods over here and vice versa. One thing that concerns me is that I'm starting to see, and I don't spend a lot of time on social media, but I see a lot of folks advertising on social media. So is there in this ordinance the ability for an entity or one of these pop-up food vendors specifically to operate on private property without any regulation? So let's say that I own a piece of property and I invite the vice mayor, who's a food vendor, onto my property to sell his wares or his food. Is that permitted under this?
I'm going to give you the attorney response of, it depends on the circumstances.
Can we just get the button? It depends.
So it depends whether they're vending to people and having customers come in from off-site, whether you just catering in food for your local event or party or whatever, that may be okay. So it depends. So if you're asking a food truck to come and deliver you some food or whatever for a party or event, I think I'm looking at Doug here. I don't think that the city is going to necessarily have a problem with that. Where we're going to have some issues in here is if you're setting up on a residential property or some other place and you're selling the food outside and you're vending to the world at large or whoever it may be, there are definite enforcement mechanisms, not only in here, but also in our existing zoning ordinance. Our zoning code does not allow you to operate residential property that way. So for anybody who may be operating out their house and going out and selling stuff in a residential area like this and having a big food event on a regular basis, beware. There can be repercussions.
It depends.
And Mr. Mayor, I would just add on to what the city attorney said. So after talking with county environmental health specialist who focuses on restaurants, what she told me was, so these pop-up restaurants that we're seeing, if they are affiliated with an event, so I'm just going to say one of the strolls, and they go in, they get the permits that they're supposed to get, and they provide the hand washing stations, and they make sure that you have to comply with food safety requirements, there actually is a way for them to get permitted. But outside of an event along the streets of Yuba City that we see, no, there is no mechanism for them to be permitted.
So going back to the old days of the Prune Festival and it was a pretty good crackdown by the county in regards to how the food was handled in the washing stations and screening and everything else. It seems to me anyway, from one person, and it sounds like others agree, this is, while we have a role in here, it's really the burden is carried by environmental health. I mean, that's an opinion as much as anything else. And, this is a role that we would encourage them to partner with us. How's that? And, I'm hopeful that we can gain their participation in an active way. Because if this is a one and done, it's not going to do anything. We end up with a lot of nice words on paper, a lot of good work by folks, and people will just pop up just like they did on your first enforcement effort. And they'll wait for the troopers to go away, and guess what? They roll back in. What I don't want to see happen, from one person's point of view, is us take the full burden of this and therefore take the full scrutiny. I'm fully in support of this thing, but we shouldn't be the only bad guy, I guess, because we're not a bad guy. We're protecting the public's health. We're protecting the commerce of our permit paying, rules obliging folks. But the last question I have is, given what's been discussed tonight, given what the concerns of the council have raised, where does this lie in the ability of the city to actually go out and do this? Is this something that a police officer, for instance, please don't take this as this is what I want you to do, but is a police officer going to be driving through town, see one of these, or is this just going to be a spot thing every now and then, and we're hopefully maybe putting the fear of confiscation and so people don't do business because of that? How are we going to enforce this thing?
So we have partnered with the police department, and our enforcement action as of, I think, the last 2 or 3 evenings we've gone out have included a law enforcement officer with us. I don't see that changing. And so, and especially since we're getting into could potentially be getting into the position of confiscation, I think it's going to be important to have somebody from the police department there partnering with us.
I guess, and maybe this is a question to be answered later on down the road, is our patrol officers going to see this and do something about it? Is it up to is it going to be complaint driven by the public? How are we going to address, these things they're up, they're around. I notice them in other communities too. We're not lucky enough to be the only one.
Yeah, so I think just from a practical standpoint, if the city were to adopt an ordinance that provided for confiscation, I think within a few evenings of doing this and that actually occurring, the message is going to get out. And they're going to very quickly learn that we need to be outside the city limits of Yuba City. And I think that will decrease the proliferate we currently see.
Okay. Any other questions?
Through the mayor. I know there's a lot of conversation of county, city. I just want to stress once again, as I always have, city residents are county residents. And for the county to think that they're not part of this city is ludicrous. And they need to step up and do their job that my property taxes and everyone in this room that lives in this community pays the county to do. And so I have no problem pushing as much as possible that the county steps up and does their part involved in this, because I'm a Sutter County resident, whether they want to believe it or not. I know I live in Yuba City, but they need to step up and quit taking this parochial approach. That's them, we're here. And that I won't stand. I personally will not stand for that. That's not on the table at this point. So that's my 2 cents.
Okay. Would note, thank you for that comment. We've had both a meeting and we've had conversations engaging with County Administrative Officer, and he's been so far very supportive in our efforts.
All right. Yeah.
Through the mayor, just one last thing that I haven't heard mentioned yet. Of course, thank you, Doug and Shannon and your team for this, because I feel like it's the seed was planted a while ago and it's hard to get these things going. I think about, just having done some reading on this, just the human rights violations going on. It's not just anecdotal to say that there's sex and human trafficking going on. These people are being used for their labor oftentimes to pay off coyotes and things like that. And I don't think any government, civic organization can sit idly by morally and say, we're just going to watch this going on. Like, we have to get it out of here because it's bigger than the legalities. It's human rights violations. So our money, in addition to that, should and could be spent on businesses operating legally and morally. So that's all.
Yep. Okay. Anybody else?
I wanted to reiterate, Mr. Mayor, if I may, that I do appreciate Sutter County's efforts. And so I recently, as yesterday, there's county administrator who I work with a lot. Obviously, you folks work with their elected officials, certainly restated their commitment to helping us out. And, going back to my old life, I have to tell you, it's tough because they are out all the time regulating our restaurants and, the permits you see on the windows and things like that. And they have a tall order to fill, if you will. But I guess the thing that really concerns me probably more than anything is when Doug mentioned like the hand washing stations when in my county administrator role for those years, I would say in the 2010 area, maybe a little bit before, a little bit after, the state of California got very aggressive with trainings and food handling type of trainings and required folks that are in the restaurant business to spend a lot of money in training their staff and doing all those things. And that's to protect our residents of California. And I see this just as us doing our part. And I really appreciate Doug and code enforcement's efforts. It's a tall order to fill. But again, it's in the best interest of the health of everyone. And we're glad to have a partner with Sutter County and moving forward with this, because we couldn't do it without them, to be honest.
Okay. Through the mayor.
Go ahead.
Ask one more question. Yeah. I know this is just the first step in it, but as we're getting into late January, spring is on its way. Are we on a time? What kind of time frame are we on? Are we going to have this in place by spring when all of them really start popping up?
I would say yes. So I would envision incorporating some refinements, possibly taking it to the Planning Commission, hopefully the second meeting in February, and then we could come back to your council for introduce the ordinance adoption. So we're probably looking at in effect in probably April.
Okay, April is, okay, that's spring. And I'm just, there's no way to expedite that.
No, but in the meantime, I would say that we are going to continue to partner with Sutter County, because today they have that authority under environmental health to confiscate. So don't think of it's being put on hold until April. We're going to continue to work forward. In fact, we're trying to maybe plan an enforcement evening in the first part of February, where we could potentially do our first confiscation with county environmental health.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Anybody else? All right. Any members of the public like to speak on this item? Okay. No one from the public. And action from the council.
To take action on item 21 as presented.
Second.
We have a motion by the vice mayor, second by Councilmember Cole. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, item number 21 passes unanimously. Future agenda items, anything for the future? Okay, not seeing anything. Reports and communications. City manager, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A few items for upcoming items, if you will. May fall into the future agenda items, but I'll give it to you under this category anyway. So February 3rd, we have our budget workshop perspectives initially scheduled. We would do a workshop just again on the perspective for the upcoming fiscal year. That date's a little bit flexible right now, and I would ask your council's indulgence, and I'll work with the mayor certainly and the vice mayor, because we may need to do it either the following week, because I know some council members might not be around that first week. So the intent is to have a separate workshop to where we can just receive some direction from council. So it might be the 4th or 5th, or maybe even the following week. So would appreciate your indulgence on that. And then mid-year, I believe we're still targeting February 20th, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm looking with a nod over to our finance director for a mid-year review. February 20th, I believe, is what we had, the second meeting in February. Giving you a little extra time, right? So darn that Tyler ERP, right? So, but I think if the date moved a little bit for the workshop. So I think February 20th would be probably acceptable for mid-year and give us a little bit of time to put that together. Also on February 20th, I am hopeful we're at that last stage, the hard work that your council and your department heads put in to develop our strategic plan. I've looked at the draft a few times. We've gone back and forth with the person that's doing the content design, and we're hoping that on February 20th, we're able to present that in final format, the hard work your council did along with your department heads and putting together that strategic plan. So excited to do that. And then also the 3rd or 4th week in February, we hope to return back to your council Doug and I had an opportunity to spend some time with Perkins Eastman, which a few of you attended some of those meetings on our economic development initiatives, and we're feeding them some more data. They've come up with a revised version. We've identified some priorities. Be meeting with a few council members here really soon to talk about sort of next steps, but we'd like to roll that out potentially in the 3rd or 4th week of February. But more to follow there once we firm up a date with Perkins Eastman, but really excited to see those potential initiatives and concepts highlighted. But I really think that it is going to provide that energy drink type level, if you will, to some our economic development opportunities in the future for Yuba City. So we're excited to do that. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Bendorf. Councilmember Cole.
Okay, not too much to report. I'm going to let Councilmember Kirchner report on Yuba-Sutter Transit, but I will mention that I was nominated and elected to be the vice chair for this upcoming year, so honored for that. And then the only other thing I did the last couple weeks was with the Sutter County Children and Family Commission. Our city and Tulips Bloom Speech Therapy teamed up to put in a communication board at Regency Park, and Councilmember Pasquale and I went to the ribbon cutting there. Pretty cool thing to see the 3 languages on that board, as many grandparents maybe or parents who don't speak English can go and actually take a picture of a QR code and get the translation. So if they don't know English, they can still help the little ones learn English. And so we all know how important literacy is. So that was an awesome thing to see and be a part of. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Next up is Councilmember Kirchner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Gil Sizer, once again, was canceled. With moving forward with mosquito vector, I will be attending on the 1st of February a convention in Southern California, so I'm looking forward to that. Had a quarterly review, installation of the Yuba County taxes, and we did our yearly renewal of our flood insurance. With transit, as Councilmember Cole mentioned, we did election of the new chair and the new vice chair. The new chair is Supervisor Reddick House from Yuba County. And as she mentioned, she's the new vice chair of transit, which we're really excited about. There was purchase of a maintenance truck. The big thing on the item, the agenda, was the RFP for construction management for the next gen transit facility. This is the big project going in over on North Beale Road, so we're excited about that. Also, we did our yearly employee evaluation for our new director, which he did extremely well with, because we believe in everything he's doing. With Regional Water Authority, we did a report from their new vice chair and executive committee members, really thin on the agenda, other than approval of a budget amendment of $50,000. Lastly, the mayor and I attended, and this kind of goes along with the homeless liaison. The mayor and I attended a very well-attended meeting at the county over on Market Street to talk about the closing of the Salvation Army depot in Marysville, which kind of sent shockwaves through the region. And it was really, I'm really proud of Johnny Burke for calling that, because I mean, it was packed. It was packed to the point where they kept coming in asking people to move their cars because employees just couldn't get in. I mean, it was literally standing room only, and it was an informational meeting as to why the depot has got to close, and it's just like everything else. It's the costs, and the building is literally falling down around their ears. But it was more about bringing the community together and just listening to different ideas of what to do in lieu of. So I'm really glad Mr. Burke brought that to our attention. And with that,
that's all, folks.
I think. Let me double check. I'm not missing Waffle Wednesday, am I? We're still on for that? Is that coming up? Okay, so Waffle Wednesday. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Shaw.
Short and sweet. I don't have anything to report. Been working at the ranch during the last 2 meetings, and want to thank the mayor for his expertise with helping me support our GDP with a little deer merchandise there. So thank you, sir.
Ride it well and proud. Vice Mayor Pasquale, please.
Thank you, Mayor. The only thing I have is that I was asked to fulfill the Shabufka commitment for Councilmember Shaw, and the meeting was canceled. And with that, I conclude my report.
Thank you. Okay, I've got a few things here. Just reminding everybody, tomorrow's the groundbreaking, 10:30 for Richland Village. I hope those that are able can make it down there for that. 10:30. I have 10:30 on my calendar in front of me. Yes.
Through the mayor?
Yes.
You might have told Tony 12:30 for a reason. I hate to be the guy.
I love you, Tony. Okay, so I want to thank the Vice Mayor and Councilmember Cole for covering at the not the groundbreaking, but the Regency Park. I was attending a First Friday out at Beale, and appreciate you guys taking that on. Cut the ribbon at the new coffee shop with many of you, Full Circle down there. In fact, Wade and I had a little meeting down there this morning. They're going concern, so it's a nice little addition to Plumas Street. We had a Zoom with Adventist. The president, Mr. Champlin, got us on the phone to let us know that the fountains, the garden, and the courtyard were in the process of being sold. It's going to take several months before the sale is actually taken care of. I will share that my mom is in the fountains. And so after the public announcement, I let my sister know. She did a bunch of back checking, and Cypress Health seems to be like a pretty well-respected operator. So that's who they're trying to sell to. So that was some good news. Attended SACOG on the last Thursday. Several things happened down there that I think are really good for our region. Yuba County Supervisor Bradford was appointed as the vice chair, which means that next year he will be the chair. And that bodes well for our region because that carries some weight. Carm Baines from Sutter County Supervisor was appointed to the Mega Region Group. This is all the metropolitan planning areas or organizations get together. So having Sutter County represented on that Mega Region thing is a good thing. And I was appointed as the vice chair of the Transportation Committee. So we have a lot of voices down at SACOG, and as you well know, they do a lot. And we just had our safety transportation thing. There's a lot of funding coming this year, so I think we'll have some advocates, which I think is a good thing. Several of us are going to be participating in a trivia contest to support Sutter Animal Services Authority this coming Sunday. And since the 49ers are out, no one has an excuse to not be there. So we are looking for one more body if you're interested. The Vice Mayor and I will be meeting and greeting those that are going to be recommended to the Council for the Youth Commission. That's tomorrow evening. And I know several of us will be traveling north for Congressman Lamalfa's services up in Chico. And from what I gather, they've got folks from the DC coming. There's probably 1,000 or so. That may even be more than that up there. So with that, I think we will conclude this meeting. I really appreciate everybody's attendance. I certainly appreciate the folks from Beale coming out and sharing a little bit of what they do with us, and close this just thankful for all that Yuba City has to offer and all that the support that our staff gets and all the feedback, good and bad, that we get. So thank you very much. 10:30? Yeah.
Yuba-Sutter.Live's local government live streams are presented by Plumas Lake Self-Storage in Plumas Lake, where lifelong local residents are helping other residents keep things safe, providing indoor storage units, outdoor RV and vehicle parking, moving supplies, and Penske truck rentals. Details at plumaslakeselfstorage.com.
Tonight on Yuba-Sutter.live, the 6:30 p.m. Marysville Unified School Trustees meeting will carry after the Marysville City Council meeting is finished. Yuba-Sutter.live's Government Watch, presented by plumaslakeselfstorage.com. Wednesday, local government meetings made shorter. For your information, we pull out informative sections and present them individually. For your information, posting Wednesdays here on Yuba-Sutter.live.
Yuba-Sutter.live. It's the truth that comes through.
Hi, I'm Neil Goforth of Comfort Keepers of Yuba, Sutter, and Nevada counties. Caring for elders or even yourself has challenges. Comfort Keepers of Yuba, Sutter, and Nevada counties can help you address today's issues and plan for tomorrow with in-home and specialized care for you or your family members. Call us at 530-749-8800. Comfort Keepers of Yuba, Sutter, and Nevada counties.
In Yuba County, there's a legendary diner.
Oh, it looks delicious. Oh my gosh, thank you so much.
Where the parking lot tells a story. A story as simple as biscuits and gravy.
The food is good. The prices are wonderful. My dad has so many friends here that come here, and it's my dad and mom have known Mary Jane and her dad before Duke.
Duke's Diner on 7th Avenue, home of legendary chili, holiday pies, and generations of local residents preparing tasty, hearty food for generations of local people. Join Mary Jane and her genial associates as they serve meals you'll come back for. Duke's Diner on 7th Avenue, Olivehurst.